Top tourist attractions in Rio de Janeiro and easy day trips. Rio de Janeiro's setting between the mountains and the sea is so spectacular that UNESCO cited the staggeringly beautiful location for one of the world's biggest cities in naming Rio a World Heritage Site. UNESCO's accolades weren't just for the natural setting but also for the urban cultural landscape and the mix of architecture and planned green space that characterized the city's growth. Rio de Janeiro is the second major city in Brazil and was its capital from 1763 to 1960. When Brasilia was created. The city was founded by Portuguese colonists in the mid-1500s and became the port for the shipment of gold from the inland mining areas. Throughout its history, Rio has seemed aware of its physical assets, the soaring mountains behind it, Sugarloaf towering above its harbor, and its long crescent beaches that are its prime tourist attractions, and has enhanced that landscape with distinguished buildings from each era of its history and with a generous supply of urban parks and open spaces. Discover the best the city has to offer with our list of the top attractions in Rio de Janeiro. Number 1, Cristo Redentor, Christ the Redeemer. The giant statue of Christ overlooking the city from the 709-meter summit of Corcovado is almost as widely recognized a symbol of Rio as the distinctive shape of Sugarloaf. The world-famous landmark was erected between 1922 and 1931, financed almost entirely by contributions from Brazilian Catholics. The Art Deco statue was created by Polish-French sculptor Paul Landowski and built by the Brazilian engineer Heitor da Silva Costa, in collaboration with the French engineer Albert Cocot. Made of reinforced concrete and soapstone, the figure itself is 30 meters tall with arms stretching 28 meters, it weighs 635 metric tons. Inside its 8-meter-high base is a chapel, where it's not uncommon to find weddings and baptisms taking place. The Corcovado rack railway chugs from Rua do Cosme Velho up the 3.5-kilometer track to the statue, through the Tijuca National Park. Number 2, Sugarloaf. Rio de Janeiro's best-known landmark is the rock peak of Sugarloaf, towering 394 meters above the harbor. It sits on a point of land that projects out into the bay and wraps around its harbor, and is connected to the city by a low strip of land. You can take a cable car from Praça General Tiburcio to the top of the Morro de Yorca, a lower peak from which a second cableway runs to the summit of the Sugarloaf. From here, you can see the entire mountainous coast that rings the bay and its islands. Below, the 100-meter Praia de Yorca beach is near the location of Rio's original nucleus, between the Morro Cara de Cao and the Sugarloaf. On Cara de Cao are 3 forts of which the 16th century, star-shaped Fort São João is open to the public. Number 3, Copacabana. Few cities are blessed with a beautiful sand beach at its heart, let alone one that stretches 4 kilometers along one entire side of its downtown. A few steps from its golden sands are Avenida Atlantica, Avenida Nossa Senhora de Copacabana, and the neighboring smaller streets where you'll find appealing century-old buildings, fine hotels, and popular restaurants and cafes. The unquestioned monarch of the area, and of Rio hotels, is the renowned Copacabana Palace, built in the 1920s and now protected as a national monument. Featured in the 1933 film Flying Down to Rio and host to royalty and glamorous movie stars, Copacabana Palace recalls the halcyon days of power, wealth, and elegance, when Rio was capital of Brazil. At the far end of the beach, Copacabana Fort dates from 1914 and was the scene of a 1922 revolt of officers, who took over the fort and turned its artillery on the city. The short-lived revolt ended the next day when the government brought in battleships to bombard the fort. You can learn about this and other military history at the Museu Histórico do Exército, Museum of the History of the Army, now housed here. Outside, on the fort grounds, are artillery pieces from the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Number 4, Ipanema. Continuing on from Copacabana's 4-kilometer strand, the beaches of Ipanema and Leblon are separated by the Jardim da Ala Canal, which drains the lagoon, Lagoa Rodrigo de Freitas. Along the seafront promenade are large hotels, sidewalk cafes, and restaurants. These two districts, although best known for their beaches, one of which was made world famous by the song The Girl from Ipanema, have a lively cultural life, with art galleries, cinemas, and an avant-garde theater. Praça de Cantal in Leblon is the scene of an antiques market every Sunday, and Praça General Osorio hosts the Sunday Feira de Artesanato de Ipanema featuring crafts, music, art, and local foods. Number 5, Carnival, Carnival. One of the world's most famous pre-Lenten celebrations, as well known as those in Venice and New Orleans, takes place each winter in Rio de Janeiro. The celebrations begin shortly after New Year, but the splendor and extravagance reaches its spectacular climax in the 4 days before Ash Wednesday, attracting hundreds of thousands of spectators to its street parades, samba parties, and shows. Other Brazilian cities celebrate Carnival. It is also a major tourist event in Bahia and Recife, but Rio's is the most lavish. The most spectacular events are the parades of the samba schools, which are held in a unique venue designed by renowned Brazilian architect Oscar Niemeyer. The Sambódromo is a long parade route lined by stadium-style boxes designed so that up to 50,000 spectators can watch the parades of brilliantly costumed dancers as they compete. The parade route is 700 meters long and 13 meters wide. It was first used in 1984 and updated as a venue for the 2016 Olympic Games. Number 6, Tijuca National Park. Tijuca National Park protects the Tijuca Forest and several viewpoints overlooking the city, and surrounds Cristo Redentor, the giant-sized statue of Christ on Corcovado. To explore the park, you can leave the train up to Corcovado at a midpoint and follow the road through the forest. The 3,300-hectare Tijuca Forest, one of the world's largest forests within a city, was planted in the late 1850s on land that had been destroyed by coffee plantations, to safeguard the springs that supplied Rio de Janeiro's water. Most of the trees are native species and provide habitat for capuchin monkeys, quatis, Brazilian raccoon, colorful toucans, hawks, brilliant blue butterflies, and many other species of wildlife, which you may spot while exploring its trails and roads. Near the station of the Corcovado Railway is Largo do Boticario, one of Rio's most picturesque squares, surrounded by colonial-style houses. From the pagoda-style pavilion at Morro de Vista Chinesa, 380 meters above the shore, are views of the municipal park, the Botanic Garden, and a long stretch of the south coast. There are more views from Morante Dona Marta, a viewpoint on a spur of rock above Botafogo Bay. Several waterfalls drop from the forest springs, including the 30-meter Cascata Hatane. Set in extensive gardens near the park is the Museu do Açude, with the valuable porcelain collections of the West India Company, old views of Rio de Janeiro by Brazilian and foreign artists, and azulejos, traditional Portuguese tiles from the 17th through 19th centuries. Number 7, Jardim Botanico, Botanical Garden. Covering 350 acres at the foot of Corcovado, Rio's Jardim Botanico combines an ecological sanctuary with show gardens and a scientific laboratory, all in a beautiful park-like setting. Highlights are the Orchidarium, an iron and glass greenhouse built in the 1930s and filled with more than 2,000 species of orchids, and the Japanese gardens with their cherry trees, wooden bridges, koi ponds, and bonsai. A sensory garden of aromatic plants and herbs is signed in Braille. The garden, which is a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve, contains more than 8,000 species of plant life and the birds and animals that make this their habitat, including marmoset monkeys and toucans. You can walk through the gardens, under the soaring royal palms and pau Brazil trees, or ride through on an electric cart tour. Number 8, Maracana. A must-see for football, soccer, fans when a game is scheduled. Brazil's largest stadium was home to the opening and closing ceremonies of the 2016 Summer Olympic Games. It was completely renovated for the FIFA World Cup 2014 and holds more than 78,000 fans. The stadium is used for matches between Rio's major football clubs, the Flamengo, Botafogo, Fluminense, and Vasco da Gama, as well as for concerts. The brief tour would be of interest to avid fans, but others should give it a miss. The shore of Lagoa Rodrigo de Freitas, near Copacabana and Ipanema, where many other Olympic events took place, is lined by parks and sports clubs, and its waters are popular for regattas and other water sports.